Let's get to work. Come on.
Welcome to the Master of Trades podcast with your host, Perry Ellison.
Hey, welcome to the Master of Trades podcast. I'm your host, Perry. I'm here, as always, with my good friend and partner, Quest Gatlin.
Yes, sir.
On the show, Quest.
Hey, always good to be on with you. This is almost too much fun, if there's ever such a thing. This is almost, there's fun, and then there's too much fun. And I think we're teetering that line here.
Yeah, living life and then talking about it and the stuff that causes us to win.
Yeah.
Sharing it, the stuff that causes us to question and we're completely lost on. Yeah, talking about it, so hopefully people come in.
Yeah,
us out.
Yeah, I hope so too.
You know.
Yeah. In fact, if you're watching this, listening to this, do us a favor: hit the like button, subscribe wherever you're catching this, and whenever you're catching this. It obviously helps us out to kind of get the word out as we're jumping out into podcast world. And man, it's been great. We've had the first couple of episodes have been a blast. We've talked about so many things for business owners, and I think over the next couple of episodes, we're going to learn a little bit more about your personal story. I think we live in a day and a time now where everybody's an influencer, whether they've earned the right to be or not. They've deemed themselves influencers, and a lot of times, with all the noise of social media, with all the noise, as you guys know, watching, listening to this, there's a lot of noise out there, and it's like, which voice do I listen to? Everyone's got a coaching program. Everyone knows how to get freaking leads. Everybody knows everything. And sometimes you're like, you don't know if a particular voice or their content looks cool, but is there any substance to who they are in their story? What I love about you is I know there is for a fact, even though maybe a lot of our listeners don't quite know yet. We're going to get there. There's so much to talk about, but we were rattling for a minute about Master of Trades, what that is, what that actually means, how that came on your heart in terms of the name of this podcast. Share a little bit. Yeah. Take us on a ride.
No, you touched a lot of things there with like the macro idea of being an influencer in this day and age. And it got me thinking that everybody is an influencer.
Hey,
it should be. It should be a point of pride. Like, hey, you know, I don't need to influence a million people. Who am I influencing today? My family and my friend circles, and just out in the world, waiters, waitresses that you have no idea are gleaning something from you. Yeah. And there's a few stories that come to mind there, but going back to, hey, you know, the things we're confused about, you know, putting that out there in the world and allowing people to comment on this show and on our content, man, fix us. If you think we misstate something, if you think that we gloss over something, make something sound too easy than that it actually is, or a lot harder than it actually is, comment. I want to give you an example of who's been a great influence to me in a very small way. It's the guy who produces this content, right? His name's Carlos. Yeah. He's a genius. Talk about a master of his trade. Yeah. Unbelievable. And the one way he's influenced me is he said, wear a good shirt today. Wear a better shirt.
And if you could just do us a favor, wear a clean shirt today, would you?
Carlos probably doesn't see himself as an influencer. He's like, I'm a producer. Yeah. But everybody's an influencer.
That's so great.
When you got something good to say, something good to share that helps people. Yeah. Get into the heart of like, my genuine desire is to help somebody with something that I've learned. Yeah. And I know for sure. Like, that's such a great thing. And I hope everybody, you know, expands their thinking on that and is excited to become an influencer. Yeah, that just rather than being known or getting any sort of accolade out of it. But
true influence. Yeah, true, real influence.
That's right. Yeah, we're all influencing. A lot of negative influences out there too.
Big time,
every single day.
Big time.
So a lot of what we do is being a counter to those negative influences with some positivity. And like I said, there's a few folks in my life that I'm inspired by being an influence to them, and I can see that they're starting to talk differently, act differently, you know, take different actions, and I'm so encouraged. That's the stuff that honestly fires me up. Yeah. You were part of a call, I think it was yesterday, where one of our team members was just essentially communicating this desire now to help others because he's been helped in our ecosystem, and I'm like, this is it.
That's it.
It's the greatest reward right there. One person.
Like, so cool. It's actually part of our organization's documentational vision. Like, we actually have that documented, that's what we're trying to achieve. And he didn't even realize as he was expressing, man, as I've been around you guys, as I've been doing this, learning this, all of a sudden I find myself multiplying. I'm being an influencer. I'm making a difference. And I just woke up one day and realized I was. And that's the whole point.
So cool.
So you're doing a great job, man. And it's, I think sometimes the journey, especially as a leader, where you're like, is this paying off? And I mean in more ways than just one. We live in the United States of America, and everything bows down to the dollar. At the same time, are you willing, as a leader, as an influencer, yes, as a business owner, to see difference being made, even if it isn't particularly the bottom dollar? Yeah, we need that. We want that, of course. That's why we went into business. At the same time, to see your employees go, I just got something I never could have gotten if it wasn't for the time I spent with you, the time I spent with this team, and it goes so far beyond the dollar. And it was just incredible to see him sharing that in that conversation and realize, hey, bro, whether you realize it or not, that was actually per design. That's where I think so many people miss it, is they want to be able to make a difference. They just haven't reverse engineered that into the system within their business so that you follow these steps, you get around these people, this is going to be the result. In this case, the gentleman in our organization was sort of surprised by it. You weren't. And that's what I love it. You smiled and said, guys, this is what's called, and we have it documented within our own organization, and you and your organization, it may be called something differently, but essentially it's greatness.
Yeah.
It's a pathway or a journey to personal greatness. And he was beginning to experience it and didn't realize that this was part of the plan all along, bro. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, and that's called the infinite greatness,
yeah.
Right? It's infinite greatness. It's an infinity symbol that expresses the journey of people going from destitution, struggle, being essentially lost, to being found, being supported, nurtured, and then all the way through the cycle to now where they're expected to impact others and bring that next generation of people through the same process and that flow. And it's
so good.
I think we get kind of lost in the fact that, man, unless it's big, unless I've got a lot of people chanting my name, that I'm not really making an impact for influence. Right. And it's the more that we can get micro with our progress, not just in leadership or influence, but fitness as well.
Yeah,
like in everything we do and learning and becoming an expert.
Yeah.
If we could just get really excited about and watch, again, it comes down to data.
Yeah.
We got to know what to look for that tells us we're on the right track, because, man, it's so minuscule. We got to get our microscopes out sometime and see there's real progress being made in that one person, and just fired me up.
Oh, it's so good.
Because then it goes along with what we're talking about today with the master of trades, and we'll unveil who exactly the master is.
Yeah.
It's not me, but Elijah and Elijah in the Bible, one came first was Elijah, right? Help me. Quest is actually a minister.
Elijah and
Elijah came
Elisha.
First. Yeah. Elijah comes first, and Elijah had thousands. Elijah essentially passed the torch to, had 10,000s.
Man, we can go off on this one.
Thousands to 10,000s. That's an influence. 1 to 2. Like, if I'm able to inspire one person, that it goes and inspires 2 people or 200 people, that's our place in this entire ecosystem of life. And we got to get excited about that. We got to see the consequence of that as being big. Our name and our DNA is in that future outcome of people who maybe we influenced and they go on. So love that. I'm so excited about all of that.
Yeah.
And today's conversation is talking about the origin of the name Master of Trades. So when you heard it the first time, what did you think about the name Master of Trades? What did it make you think?
First of all, it's a cool name. Second of all, Master of Trades. Obviously, this podcast is geared towards leaders, business owners, men and women in those spaces that essentially are leading in their space. Whether that's ministry, right? Whether that's business, whether that's the fitness space. You and I have experienced some pretty cool fitness transformations over the last couple of years that we haven't really talked about publicly per se, but we're also believers. We also have a ministry background, and there's a lot to talk about for sure. But at the end of the day, I feel like most people struggle to duplicate themselves, and I feel like the reason they struggle to duplicate themselves or be an influence is because they have nothing. You can't give what you don't have. And when you are not a person of it, for example, Perry, I've known you for a long time. We little nugget for everybody on the podcast is I started to get into some things that I probably would have been interesting, but wouldn't have started pursuing if it wasn't for Perry. One of those things are, not to get off on a total bunny trail here, but like particularly fitness. I've always been on the roller coaster ride of like, always lifted some weights, always done some things. But one day I noticed that Perry had begun a like seriously notable physical transformation. Lost a bunch of weight, started looking sharp. I was like, what the heck? I want to lose weight too. Dang it. How dare you, you know? And I mean, this was years before I actually was like, I got to get this dealt with. I got to get this excess weight off of me, period, you know. And I have my own story as to why and all that. But the point is like, you get around people you love and respect, you're going to embody some things. Have you ever ridden in a car with somebody that smokes? And no offense, you know, if you smoke or anything.
Yeah.
The point is, bro, you're going to get out of that car and every piece of clothing you wear smells like smoke. You become who you hang around. You think like, you talk like, for better or for worse, who you spend the most time with. And you talk about mantles being passed on biblically. You talk about getting around people of influence, whether you know it or not, or like it or not. You are a person of influence. Most people aren't intentional about their influence. So going back to your original question about being a master of trades, and we'll get into who that really is, right? I hope that people, one of the things that they get out of this podcast is like, dude, you're an influencer. You already said that in the beginning of the podcast, but I really want you to get that on the inside of you before we continue talking about why, by design, you're an influencer. And we'll talk about who the master of trades is. This is something that I am extremely fired up about, and I'm ready to start preaching. That's but let's talk about who the master of trades is. When I first heard the name of it, I'm thinking business, right? I'm thinking like, okay, tradesman, you're a master like within your own space, and you should strive to be knowledgeable and masterful in the space that you're running and operating in, whether you're the owner or the operator, 100%. But it's more than just that for you when you named it Master of Trades. Tell us a little bit more.
That's so good. And obviously it plays off of that saying, Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
And so that is actually kind of a plight for business owners.
Yeah.
It's called shiny object syndrome.
Wow.
We want to have our hand in everything that we think we can do.
Wow.
But all of it really, if we take it on all at the same time, we find that eventually our bag just has a bunch of holes in it, and our energy is flowing in every direction, and it never in one meaningful direction to get something done. So Jack of all trades, master of none. It's kind of meshing that best case scenario, that impossible outcome of being a master of all trades.
Wow.
And trades there, obviously, for us and the purpose of our content and what we're talking about every day, it's the trades industries. Of course, I'm very experienced in that. My company is within a specific trade space. Started in service and repairing fitness equipment. So the trades is near and dear to my heart. I love people within the trades because most of the time you find them that they're family-owned businesses. They originated from blue-collar guys and gals who just knew how to do a thing and decided to go off with courage and forge their own trail and do it on their own and make a life for themselves and their family because they were just fed up of working within someone else's toxic environment and really not having any opportunities. So I love that grittiness there. I feel like that's Americana at its best.
Yeah.
But who can truly be a master of all trades? This is not master of trade, master of the trade, master of a trade. This is master of trades, all trades. And so that is not me. That is not a title of a podcast to indicate this person is a master of all trades, so come on and he's going to help everybody.
Yeah.
This is maybe a forum where we can interview and have great people on that have experience in such a wide-ranging scope of trades and information. And we can come and we can learn a lot more than we ever could in one narrow space. But truly the master of trades is the one who all trades originate from, who all things originate from.
Yeah.
And that is God. That is our creator, the one and only. the one who in the Bible it says teaches our hands to prosper. If you're in the trades, you're aiming to prosper. That's the target outcome.
Yeah.
How do we prosper? Well, God teaches our hands to prosper.
Yeah.
And so he has not only made all things, he's not only made every vehicle on the road, every pipe inside of a sink, he's made all the materials. And he has also created man and specific people who have inside of their being, he has planted the potential of becoming an expert within a narrow space and narrow trade.
Yeah.
So he's actually planted the potential for us to become a master at our trade. But he's done this for all trades. And so everyone who's ever existed, every trade that has ever been, he has actually forged the elements and the vision, the imagination, the consciousness that is unique to man. He has given that to our specific animal. And so I think his opinion, turning our attention and acknowledging what he says about work and being a leader and running businesses and being responsible for people should be something we consider, if not incredibly important to us. I think that's just kind of common sense. Plus, science, what is science? And as I was going down this trail of, comprehending how God has created all trades, he's created all the people within those trades and the experts within those trades. Science, and specifically, I would say the study of I would say all sciences, whether it's here on Earth and microcosms and, the study of cells and atoms to the infinite expanse of space. Science is the aim to understand the trades that God has created and we don't yet comprehend. Like, he's got trades that we don't even know about. He's got the inner workings of plumbing and ventilation and just the things that work to sustain our existence.
Yeah.
He has fine-tuned those mechanics, if you want to call it that, in such a way that it's perfect, that allows us to sustain all of our other trades in life and existence. That we're still trying to comprehend and understand. So we're learning from the master trades.
You know why?
Why?
Because the second you think you fully comprehended, you no longer need him.
That's right.
That's one of the biggest mistakes we make in leadership, is to replace him with ourselves, because we have it figured out.
It's good.
And the point is, per design, you'll never have it. You'll always have to lean in. Always. You'll always have to lean in. And so it creates an always reliance on him. That's what came to my mind as you were saying that. It's like, that's on purpose.
That's so.
By the way,
Proverbs says it's the glory of kings to search out the mysteries of the earth.
That's it.
It's the glory of God to keep those things hidden.
Yeah.
And so we're studying to understand his trades and how he's created things. I learned this the other day, is that if space had oxygen, sound waves could carry, right? But the fact that space doesn't have oxygen, sound waves can't carry. But if it did, the sun would be so loud that it would be a perpetual lawnmower sound in our ear all the time, the sound of the sun. So just how you continue to uncover just the phenomenal design and organization of such a complex, the most complex thing mankind has ever considered is existence. I think it's noteworthy. And master of trades, that is God. He is the master of trades. On this show, we not only acknowledge him because it's according to our faith and a good stewardship, and because we're disciples of him. Let's just scale that back for all those who maybe aren't of faith and have never really recognized. Let's look at this from a very logical standpoint. Let's look at something. How can this be relatable to you? Why should you care? Someone who has never acknowledged God and has not really been a priority for you and your family and your business, your existence. You're just kind of like, I could care less. Let's look at it from a perspective that you should take note and why you should care. Well, first of all, the Bible is the most incredible literary work of all time. Hands down, there's zero competition on that. If Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter is number 2, it's number 2 by millions of times. Based on the sheer impossibility of this written work existing. Its cohesiveness, its callbacks, it's all of the writers, all of the books, all the time. It's incredible. And let alone the wisdom that it contains, it is clearly divine. And if it was written by man, and we gave it its due credit, we recognize that it's just the most incredible written work.
Oh yeah.
By the way, the second greatest literary work is the U.S. Constitution. So Harry Potter somewhere. Let's go. I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah. So look, I'm excited to talk to you today about why business owners, leaders should acknowledge what God has to say on the matter. Everything that I represent in my businesses, Power Op and the Power Op method. Data, tracking data and utilizing data to guide our businesses. That's a biblical principle. Standard operating procedures, a specific way we do things. It's a biblical principle. Servant leadership. There is one who did servant leadership the best. He happens to be in the Bible. We see these concepts here. Expansive thinking. A rejection of scarcity mindsets and limitation, putting scarcity on things where there's actually no such thing. Money, jobs, opportunity. I was online. A guy said, made the assertion that I'm encouraging people to steal jobs. I said, you can't steal a job because there's no limitation on jobs, A. And B, jobs can't be possessed. And so just the opportunity for us to look back at this document and say, where have we got way off track, and where do you have a better idea for us? I'm excited to explore that. So Wes Gallen, he has launched several successful churches. He's grown up in the ministry. He's been associated with the biggest names in ministry. Incredible minister, man of God. Like, so excited to go deep with you on this topic. So what, coming from your perspective, you have a history of incredible ministers in your lineage. What really comes to mind when you think of, biblical principle, spirituality, and the professional world, the business world, leadership?
What's the point? I'll answer with a question. What's the point? Influence. I'm going to stand before God at some point, and I will not be asked a lot of the questions. I will be asked what I did with what I had. What I did with the gifts and abilities God gave me. I'll be held accountable for how and why and what I did with business resources. Like, everybody wants to dodge these questions, but dude, you gotta come to terms with, like, if God forbid something happened to me when I walk out of here today, or the day that comes, or you die, or whatever it looks like, your end, you're going to stand before your Creator and have to answer for what you did with your life. The reason I say all that is because when I look at spirituality, when I look at my faith, my walk with God, and the business side of things, I will never, I don't want anything to do with business if it isn't for the advancement of the kingdom and of the gospel. Otherwise, I'd rather just focus on the other. So if that isn't actually a vehicle to do that, I need to find the vehicle that is. So I believe personally that business is a vehicle for advancing the kingdom. And advancing the kingdom isn't like a side hobby that if we have time, we'll do it, but it's not like the priority. You got it wrong. Like, it's backwards. So, and not everybody may agree, and that's okay. But for me, my conviction is like, man, I want to make as big of a difference as I possibly can on this earth with every dollar that comes through my hand. So I want to make as much as possible. I don't apologize for it. I want to make a lot of money. I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, I'll like dumb money, and because I know what I'm going to do with it. And that's the difference. And man, I could roll off on this one. I don't know if I should, but there's a lot of people that come across like dumb money out just in the secular world and different things. They do things in airplanes in the middle of the air because they can't get prosecuted for it in the air like they would on the ground. But a minister can't have a plane or there's a lot I can go off on today. But my point is business and ministry, it's an incredible partnership that I believe by design, God I'm telling you, we got to be able to use the gifts and abilities God gave us to advance the kingdom of God. And when that convergence, man, of business and influence on the earth and your ability to network and to, you got the gift for gab, man. How do you, and not everybody's a preacher. That's okay. You know, not everybody's a preacher. Maybe you do need to be in sales because you got the gift for gab and you know how to make whatever that is. Find your trade, your God-given trade. Seek his counsel on how you can be the best you can seek the master of trades for how you could be the best at what you do. Why? For the purpose of, God, I want to get good at this because I want to be able to make a difference over here. This is where my heart is. So can you help me, my Monday through Friday, so to speak, do really well at this so I can take that dumb money and funnel it into the kingdom of God, see things happen. Orphanages should be going up. Things should be happening all over. We're in the Dallas, Texas metroplex today. Golly, we should be making a difference all over this place, you know. And I believe most business owners don't realize that a lot of the prosperity, a lot of the things that they're like getting an ulcer, staying up at night, trying to figure out is actually on the other side of their obedience to the call of God in their life to make a difference.
It's good.
And so, yeah, I see that convergence of like the trade and making a difference. Not everybody agrees. I don't even care. That's just my conviction. I'll fight you over it.
Yeah.
This is a vehicle to make that happen because this is what I'll stand before God and be accountable for.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'll speak to Christianity because I've been around Christians. I am a Christian. And it's amazing how many Christians take being broke as a badge of honor.
I know.
I'm poor because that's how Jesus was, and that's how I should be, because that's modesty and that's meekness, and it's not biblical at all.
Not at all.
You also see business owners who've rejected it or not really looked into acknowledging God in their business, and yet they still deal with things like imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Dude, you're conflicted over this stuff because you don't recognize that these things aren't something you stumbled upon. It's not something you found one day and you harnessed really well on Tuesday, and then on Thursday you completely lost it.
Come on.
Like, these are things that were planted inside of you, and if you don't recognize that this is a planned, designed, someone knew you before you were born and has had all your days numbered, it was your journey, like, you can get really lost in trying to make it make sense in your own meat computer inside your head. Like, you know, this thing's going to fail you. One day you think of yourself this way, one day you think of yourself that way. You really need to be able to fall back, again, to the data. Like, just looking at it as a business. You cannot run your business through emotions, through gut feelings. You went through something, and now you don't even know subconsciously that this is affecting your personal experience is now affecting how you're talking to Nancy, an employee who maybe is struggling or she fell below standard. Like, you can't trust your own vantage point. You need to fall back to the hard facts of the data. And the hard facts in the data is found within Scripture. What does God think? How has He designed me? How does He care about me? And how does He care about the people that I influence? Because to whom much is given, much is required. So if you are leading one other person, you're leading a family, you're leading a friend who is in a worse shape than you, you've been given much, and so much is required from you.